Hello class, today we're going to talk about assignment 2, the media production project. But a couple of things just to mention. If you noticed last week I sent out the announcement keeping up with due dates. I forgot to mention the other day that if you'll click on my grades, you'll be able to see as each thing is due and what's coming up, what's been graded. And the nice thing about it is you should be able to, you could add those dates if you wanted to a calendar, so you'll keep up with when things are due. Just know that like the June 10th or June 18th assignments, those are due by 11:59 p.m. on that day, not midnight of June 10th, because technically that would be the morning of June 10th. So make sure you're understanding that all of the assignments are due by 11:59 p.m. on that day. Something else that you might have noted, I've tried to update in the online classroom in each specific module when discussions, which discussions you need to accomplish, which assignments need to be finished, and links to any resources that go with those. But in addition, there's also a separate spot for discussions if you want to just kind of look through the discussion board and see when things are due and how many different posts there are. The content area, that is one that kind of has some miscellaneous links, but you are welcome to click on that and kind of scroll through. It has all of the sample assignments. It has the media evaluation rubrics that you needed for assignment 1. It has PDF versions and Word versions of all of those rubrics. If you keep scrolling down for both assignments 2 and 3, you are going to need the ABCD objective format. And for those of you guys that have already been in the library media program, especially if you've taken course 6353 with me, I believe that's the teaching and learning class, we've gone through and broken down how to do the ABCD format, but I've gone ahead and included the resources that I used with them. One of the best formats is an excerpt out of a text that we use, the Turner and Riedling text. So it's a really good kind of breakdown. And then there's also just a little 2-minute video on how to create those instructional objectives. And I believe after meeting all of you guys in our course last week, and in the discussion area, it looks like everyone has been a classroom teacher or some type of teacher, at least on some level. Just remember with learners, when we're talking about students, you don't have to always be in that K-12 sector. So you could also be thinking about your adult learners. So if you are going into the business sector, or if you're thinking about professional development specifically for teachers as well, then you'll just insert, instead of students, you could do learners if you wanted to. And then finally, the bottom 2 materials are the Assure model assignment. That one goes with assignment 3, has my red teacher notes kind of breaking down, and I'll do a screencast for that assignment too for next week. But finally, there's also a sample 2 assignment to link in here, and I'll go ahead and put it within our module as well. And we're going to look at this paper here in just a minute. So if you pulled open assignment 2, this one is the media project creation. And for our 5-week course, the original assignment, you had to do 2 different media project creations. But for this one, with our limited time in 5 weeks, we're only going to create 1. So this is where I want you to be thinking about the content and the process of designing curriculum. So as a designer of media, participants, that's you guys, need to gain the experience in how to organize, how to create, how to apply media projects to lessons and learning, especially if we're trying to reach our 21st century learners, whether they are adult learners or K-12 students. This experience is designed to give you those experiences related to creating media specific to learners and topics. So when you're looking at your audience for that ABCD objective, you really need to analyze who your learners are, where they're starting from, and what they need to know in order to be successful in whatever lesson you've decided that you want them to complete. So there's 4 primary steps to the exercise. 3 of them are about the process, and the 4th is the product. So identify one technology project that you could use in a content-specific subject area, topic, or lesson. That project can come from the Conover's Technology Projects text. It has some great ideas for some simple projects. Some of their resources might be a little dated because I believe the text is from 2007. However, if you can take the lesson idea and then move it forward into those 21st century, the Web 2.0 tools and stuff, you are welcome to get those ideas from there. Or it could be a project that you've already created and done in the past, but we're really going to break it down step by step. So by the time school starts next year, hopefully you're going to have something you can utilize immediately, and you'll be able to share with other teachers or adult learners how you've created those things as well. So you need to make sure that you use the ABCD objective checklist. So down toward the bottom, I'll show you that in just a minute. You're going to identify your learners, the lesson topic, the objectives that you're going to use with the project, and you're really going to break it down into that specific learning objective for whatever class or course you're going to use it with. You're going to reflect on the process of creating the projects in a reflective summary. That reflective summary needs to be at least a page and a half. I know a lot of people like to know lengths, minimum lengths, so hopefully that will help. Shouldn't be more than 2 pages. And then the 4th component is the product. So each student is going to turn in a project write-up that includes your ABCD objectives checklist, and it doesn't have to be in the form of the checklist. I'll show you what the examples look like. Some people do include the checklist as part of an appendix, but you do not have to. Just make sure that your objectives are broken down based on the checklist that we'll look at. You need the lesson scenario, who's involved, what's involved, when, what amount of time do you need to teach this, where are you going to teach it, how are you going to introduce this activity in this lesson. You're going to turn in a completed version of the media project, including step-by-step directions and handouts. You'll have that 1 to 2 page reflection that summarizes the learning process of creating that media project. You're going to include the 4 questions, but it's not limited to these 4, so if you want to include a little more information, that's fine. Just make sure that you have these 4. As a future multimedia developer, what did you learn from this experience? What else do you need to know to effectively implement this project? Of what value was the experience, and what insight have you gained about yourself as a result of the experience? And know that for this activity or assignment, you need a cover sheet. It needs your first and last name, the term, which would be summer 1 if you want to be specific, the course name, design and production of media, 1. The course number, I believe this is 6340, and then the assignment title. So the media project assignment 2. You can be creative in your assignment title. Make sure you use the APA 6 edition. That is the writing style that you will refer to for writing assignments. So if you're not sure what type of font is used in APA, you're going to need to get out your manual, or if you want to use the Purdue OWL website, they've got a great breakdown of APA format, but make sure the be-all end-all is that APA manual. So if you're ever in doubt, you're not exactly sure how to do it, you do need to find a copy, and you're going to need it if you haven't already in your graduate studies. It is the manual that we use for all of our writing assignments in the iTech and the LIBM programs. So as far as the evaluation goes, the breakdown is it's worth 50 total points. You can see the grading rubric. You get 8 points for the ABCD objectives checklist completed. You get 8 points for the lesson scenario, 20 points for the media project, and this 2 points right here, a completed version. Make sure you've created a sample of what you want your learners to create. That's where that comes in, and sometimes people somehow miss that, so make sure that you're aware of that. And you can see the rest of the breakdown. 8 points for that reflection of the process of creating that media project with those 4 questions that you were supposed to answer. 3 points for source information that's collected for any graphics that you use, facts, quotes, documented in the desired format, which is APA format. One thing that I do want to point out, if you use any of the ISTE standards or any other curriculum framework standards, make sure that you include those in your source information and your references. That's something that students typically forget to include. So finally, the bottom of assignment 2 includes the ABCD objectives checklist. This is more for me or for you as the learner to go through and check off that you have done this. It's kind of like a think sheet. So look at your audience. When you've gotten your ABCD objectives written out, look at the audience. Is the audience specified for the learners for whom the objective is intended? If it's appropriately stated, fine. You can check off that you did that. Is it partly stated? Maybe you said it's 6th grade students, but you don't identify that these are GT students. Or is it missing completely? Do you just say, I'm going to use it with the students? So then you can move down in your objective to the behavior. Have you used an action verb? Did you describe the capability expected of the learner? Is it stated as a learner performance? Is it stated as an observable behavior? Students will know the 5 steps of the scientific method. Well, know is not an observable behavior. Can they repeat or define the 5 steps of the scientific method? Is it something, again, then you can observe? Does it describe a real-world skill versus a mere test of performance? If you're having them just describe or define the 5 steps of the scientific method, that's not a real-world skill. Now, if you give a real-world scenario about it, and we'll look at an example here in a minute, then you are going to be in this section rather than the partly or the missing. So if you keep going down, you find the C, that's the conditions, the materials, and or the environment. So have you described the condition under which the performance is to be demonstrated? Have you included the equipment, the tools, the aids, the references the learner may or may not be able to use? Have you given any special environmental conditions in which the learner has to perform? And then finally, your D is the degree, that criterion that tells where applicable the standard that you are looking for an acceptable performance. Do they have a specific time limit? Is there a range of accuracy that you're looking for? Do they have a proportion of correct responses that are required for them to be successful, and any other qualitative standards that you would use? So that's the checklist. Just make sure that your ABCD objectives follow that. So with the last couple of minutes, if I pulled open that sample assignment 2 that was in there, there are a couple of things I want to point out. This student did a very good job with their step-by-step instructions, but I would recommend using some screenshots. So I'm going to show you guys what another student turned in. The reference list, they did very well with the APA format. However, their title right here, in APA format, you need a capital letter at the beginning of the title, and then everything else should be lowercase. And these are just minor ticky things, but they are things that could have been remedied if they had looked just a little bit closer. And one thing that I will point out that they did not include, they had their ISTE standards in their Arkansas Foreign Language Curriculum Frameworks, but they did not include those in the reference list either. So those are just a few things. Also, their clip art, they didn't really say where they got that from, but I did like the sample that they put together of a media product that they would expect their learners to achieve. Which brings me to a sample of the VoiceThread product or project that Dr. Hu shared with us. So if you scroll down through this one, this person did a very good job with ABCD objectives. Also, they included their frameworks and the curriculum that they were going to use, but again, in their reference list, they forgot to include those. So just note to self, make sure you have those.